Hello aspirants and welcome again to Legacy IAS Academy. This will be our final chapter on the economic survey series, that is chapter number 13, talking about labor in the artificial intelligence era. It is trying to discuss whether it is a crisis situation of the development of the artificial intelligence or can it be a catalyst for future and faster growth. So let's get started with respect to artificial intelligence. Now this chapter does not present to us much of graphs, trends, etc., which the previous chapters have done, because previously we had a lot of data of tens and decades of years, whereas that is not the case over here. So what is going to happen in this chapter is a deep discussion with respect to the challenges, the fears, all those things surrounding the AI. At the same time, is there a silver lining or is there an opportunity, is what we are going to discuss. Also, not just with respect to Indian economy, but this chapter can be very important with respect to your ethics paper as well. It talks about certain biasness in artificial intelligence, certain issues which are ethical issues, which can form a case study or at least a question in your section A of ethics paper. So let's get started with the concerns and fears of artificial intelligence. So the very first fear that comes with respect to the economy or the labor market is the disruption of the labor market. What does this mean? This means that it is being feared that artificial intelligence is going to replace the labor. I'll give you a small example. Let's assume that there is a company which creates certain content on certain things. So it has 10 content writers with it. Now what happens, due to the presence of the open AI, let's say chat GPT or the recently DeepSeek, what it can do is it can replace these 10 content writers with one single prompt engineer. So what has happened, 9 jobs will then be lost. In the same manner, there can be things in the industry wherein you would need, let's say, huge number of manual labor can be converted or replaced by few smart artificial intelligence machines, as a result of which labor requirement will go down. So the survey says that few intelligent machines will be capable of performing tasks that are performed by huge number of humans. So what is going to happen? The disruption of the labor market is probably possible. I hope that's clear. Now, furthermore, you talk about another important thing or a fearful thing. One is the labor market, which is a short thing. The other important thing we have to focus on, that the development, research and development of the AI is moving with a much faster pace as compared to the rules, regulations and laws to control it, restrict it or regulate it. That is what it talks about. Research and development is outpacing what the regulatory and the ethical framework that is needed in the artificial intelligence domain. So this is probably even more big of a concern. Now, further thing is this, when you talk about other fears, is the oligopoly. What do we mean by that? It means small number of people or enterprises is going to rule. So what is happening? There is just a handful of players, handful of big players who are into AI with respect to at a huge level and having a very concentrated investment in it, a very high investment in it, and these are just handful players of it, because of which everything respect to AI will be concentrated in these few hands, and in the future they can literally rule. Concentration of wealth, or you can say polarization of wealth, at the same time utilization or rather misutilization of things can happen. So a concept of oligopoly may be at play. Now, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, has also mentioned about the job displacements that may happen. But we have discussed this, but why specifically here we are discussing it again? Because IMF says that the jobs will be majorly replaced by artificial, or the humans will be majorly replaced by artificial intelligence in the emerging market. In the emerging market. Why in the emerging market or the developed economies? Why? Because we are also a developing economy. We are not very well placed. We are not developed very well placed to leverage this technology. Means we do not have good amount of infrastructure, good amount of resources to leverage this technology for our betterment, as a result of which See, jobs will be lost everywhere, but here the jobs will also be lost more, but at the same time, the benefits will not be reaped enough to address the job which was lost. Where? In the developing and the emerging economies. And Goldman Sachs, a company, it estimates that around 300 million jobs will be lost driven by AI. Now, another question about AI is it's with respect to its reliability. Now, here a very nice discussion has been done by the economic survey. It says that when it comes to day-to-day use cases, which involves personal use, AI may be sort of reliable. In fact, even if it is not reliable and does a standard error of 10%, still you will have a lot of chance to rectify it. And it gives an example of a chatbot versus the path planning algorithm. So a customer chatbot, in which it's sort of a day-to-day, not every day that you are raising a complaint, but it's at a very personal level. So if you're discussing with a chatbot or chatting with a chatbot, you have Swiggy, Instamart chatbots bots as well. At times they don't understand, but you can keep on explaining them and finally they would understand and respond. So what the thing is, these day-to-day activities, even with an error of 10%, that's not a problem, because there is a huge chance for you to correct it. Right? So that is a chatbot example. But in certain cases, for example, the path planning algorithm which is there in the AI driven cars, it will just have a fraction of a second to decide which path to take, and after that fraction of a second it will be too late. There is no chance of any correction, and even a slight deviation in it can cause fatal repercussions. And hence reliability is an issue day to day, and in severe cases also, critical cases also, but more importantly in the critical cases, as we have understood with the help of this example. Now, coming on to the infrastructure challenge. Now, economic survey very clearly says that when the technology has proven its practicality, we want AI to prove its reliability, which we saw, but more importantly its practicality. It has to prove practicality. Then what happens? Infrastructure creation will be naturally followed when practicality is proven. Now, right now that has not happened completely with the AI. At the same time, if you look at building infrastructure, now it is a very high time consuming activity to build infrastructure, and when it starts, then also it will need a lot of time, and it has not yet started. The infrastructure for artificial is not yet developed, as a result of which what we will face is a challenge with respect to infrastructure. So AI benefits can be reaped only when there is quality infrastructure and there is a good pace of its creation. Just quality infrastructure which takes a lot of time may not be helpful. Other countries and other companies may be fast ahead. So India, if it has to reap the benefit, in fact if all the world has to reap the benefit, the infrastructure should be developed specifically in case of India if we want to reap the benefit. Subsequently, then you have the resource challenge. Infrastructure is also a resource, but there are other resources that is also required. For example, monetary. Now, monetary resources required in infrastructure also, but otherwhere as well. So the example that economic survey gives here is the fact that making a generative AI, developing AI is becoming more and more costly. Why is that? That is because AI is dependent on data. Now data is being sold, and data, if I am getting some data, you are also getting some data, then what is the exclusivity of that data for me? So I would want the data, and I would want that it should not go to you, so that I get the exclusivity. Now if I get such exclusive data, what will happen? The data will not be available for you, right? So the thing is, the demand for data is so high for generative AI, it day by day data is getting costlier and costlier and costlier. We are not talking about the cheap leads to sell certain products. We are talking about very deep seating knowledge about individuals, about things that are happening, which is getting costlier. That is why developing generative AI based on that is getting costlier. Of course you can use the open source data, but open source data would be limited to certain extent. So that is why you need to go to closed source data as well, which is getting costlier and costlier. So it is becoming increasingly expensive because of saturation of the availability of data. Now coming on to artificial intelligence and India. Now India, we with respect to resources or infrastructure, we may not be well placed, but with respect to India being service driven economy and having a very young and dynamic population, it provides a very fertile ground, a very budding ground for artificial intelligence to develop over here, provided we act proactively and we carefully manage it, plus we have proper skill development and education provided in this particular field, so we can achieve the demographic dividend. Now finally we will talk about demystifying artificial intelligence. How does it work? How artificial intelligence work? How it works is, it takes into account huge amount of data that is present, even to solve a small question. The question that is given in economic survey is, where does the sun rise? Where does the sun rise? Now to basically answer this question, AI is going to search everywhere in so many data sets, and it will do a process of tokenization. What is tokenization? First, it is going to break down where does the sun rise. These 5 words it will break down into where does the sun rise, then into groups of where does the sun and rise, or where does the sun rise, where does the sun and rise. So what is happening here? Multiple permutation combination is happening, and it will convert that into tokens. So for example, where does will be converted into 213, 351. The sun will be converted to some other set. So they will be converted into token, which is known as tokenization. When they are converted into token, it will search all the internet and try to understand, to answer this, which word needs to be given more emphasis. That will be based again on the probability. What probability? The amount of time these things are present in different sequences. Whatever is the majority of the probability in which it is present, it will give that probability, that weightage to that particular word, and then do trillions of calculation just to answer this question as to where does the sun rise. Now still, however, you will still argue that we get it very fast. Yes, we are getting it very fast, but look at the inefficiency in the sense that doing trillions of calculation to answer this. Why? Because it does not have the adaptive ability of a human being yet, so it relies on probability objective calculations of the already available data. That is one thing. Second, even though it is doing trillions of calculations immediately, that fast calculation of trillions of numbers, trillions of data sets requires huge amount of energy. Hence inefficiency not because of time, but about the with respect to the amount of energy that is required. So is there any evolution of the market that we can talk about? Initially we talk about that it may take away a lot of jobs, but at the same time we have seen technological advancement might have taken some of the job, but it created different kinds of jobs. For example, now you have an app on your phone, you can order food, you can order anything. So now that has created millions of jobs. For whom? For the delivery people. Now we are now becoming habitual of having everything delivered at our footstep, which was not there. So this app not just created a demand, then addressed the demand. It might have taken away, technology might have taken away some jobs, but in this particular sector it has created millions of jobs as well. So it is quite possible that we can have jobs created as well as jobs lost. So but jobs will be lost, that is for sure, but to ensure that jobs are created, we need to be well equipped with the coming future. We need to be AI ready in order to reap the benefit of artificial intelligence. Thank you.